Somalians ain't our people. They told them Somalians don't with us when they came up here. That's why they don't with us. And we don't with them.
America, while Don Lemon was storming a Minneapolis church with anti-ICE protesters, the actual residents of Minneapolis that have been there for generations are saying what the media doesn't want to report. Somalians ain't their people and they don't mess with them.
When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them, people get upset and angry.
Mayor Jacob Frey is doubling down on his insane position that local police should fight federal agents.
1,500 active duty soldiers are on standby for possible deployment to Minnesota. This comes as ongoing clashes between federal immigration agents and protesters remain charged.
Working class Americans are exhausted by purple-haired activists defending Somalia fraudsters who stole millions of dollars.
The police are being used as pawns in a political drama that has been created by the governor and by the mayor.
And this all could have been avoided if local officials just worked with the federal government instead of treating ICE like an occupying army. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Minnesota is currently at its breaking point. The community is absolutely exhausted, and Trump is preparing to send federal troops because the local leadership refuses to do their freaking jobs. Let me show you how all this falls apart when Democrats choose ideology over actual reality. Let me show you what actual Minneapolis residents think about the Somalia community and the fraud that's been exposed. This isn't some MAGA rally. This is a black man who lived in Minneapolis his entire life, telling the truth that white liberals don't want to hear.
That's why they don't with us. And we don't with them. You notice we ain't trying to help them. And then look at all the money that they stole. Look at all that $9 billion. And then put nothing in the community.
Then he drops this bomb.
George Floyd too. Because that's how it go. When you don't with the community and help the community, you. They took that money and left. Now look at them. They all broke. They got tricked out of all that money. They ain't got shit.
Think about what he's saying here. The George Floyd family got $20 million from a city settlement. And instead of investing some of that money back into the community that, quote unquote, made them famous, they took the money and just left. Now they're broke because they got tricked out of all the money. And the Somalia fraudsters did the same thing, stole hundreds of millions of dollars and gave nothing back to neighborhoods, nor do they really care about the neighborhoods that they're living in. This is liberal white fatigue in action. The actual residents, the people who live in these communities and deal with these type of consequences are exhausted. I would be too, by activists who defend criminals while ignoring actual victims. They're tired of being told that they're racist for noticing particular patterns. They're done with purple-haired protesters who show up for photo ops, then go back to their safe neighborhoods. And obviously, the lamestream media won't show you this because it'll absolutely destroy their narrative. They want you to believe that everyone in Minneapolis supports anti-ICE protests. But the people, the real people in the community, the people who've been there for generations are saying F that and calling it out for what it is. Fraud. Now let's talk about one of the most disgraceful moments of this entire saga over the last couple of days. The Don Lemon joining an anti-ICE mob that stormed a Minneapolis church during a Sunday service to protest federal immigration enforcement. What a damn shame.
When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry.
Lemon tried to justify the disruption by claiming ICE is violating due process and pulling people out of the streets. But a churchgoer shut him down with perfect clarity.
These people have come into our house and they've interrupted our worship. This is a house of peace, and we try to proclaim that. And this stirs division and rancor. And in the end, it's not helpful. But more importantly, if I was to break into any of their houses uninvited, cause derision and upset according to their values, I would be kicked out ultimately.
He explained that if he broke into a protester's house uninvited and caused a disruption, that he would be kicked out. But somehow it's okay. It's okay for anti-ICE activists to storm into a church during worship. And then Don Lemonhead Lamone tried to defend the protesters by bringing up ICE raids using battering rams, but the churchgoer obviously wasn't having it. He pointed out that one administration brought in 12 million people over 4 years, many of them undocumented and criminals, and this administration is correcting that.
I could also show you many opposing sides where we're also picking up the very criminals that have put Americans in danger.
But here's where it gets beautiful. Lemon tried to hit him with immigrants commit less crimes than citizens talking point. And then the churchgoer said, "We're done here," and just walked away because he knew Don Lemon wasn't interested in actual facts. He was just pushing a particular narrative. And Don Lemonhead Lamone's response, "They won't listen to the facts." Brother, you are the one who won't listen to facts. This man just explained that ICE is removing criminals who put Americans in danger, and you're defending the mob that stormed into a church. The audacity here, guys, is absolutely unbelievable. Now let's talk about what's happening to the actual police officers in Minneapolis who are caught in the middle of this political nightmare. Retired Las Vegas Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton, who's in Minnesota doing peer support for law enforcement, explained exactly what's going on here.
The law enforcement community could handle the issues here. They're just not being involved. And why are they not being involved? Because Mayor Frey and Governor Walz are not allowing them to be involved.
Sutton said that the law enforcement community could handle the issues, but they're not being involved because Mayor Frey and Governor Walz are not allowing them to get involved. This is a basic law enforcement mission, but police are being used as pawns as political drama created by the governor and the mayor.
Well, what I'm seeing here on the ground is law enforcement being very, very frustrated and not being able to do their duties, not being able to be deployed in a meaningful way. And that is creating a real problem here and very dangerous for not just the citizens here, but for law enforcement as well.
Meanwhile, Somalia Frey is out here saying residents want police to fight ICE agents on the streets, which is literally asking local cops to attack federal agents. And here's the kicker. When the ICE shooting happened, Mayor Frey immediately accused the officer of being a murderer within minutes of the incident.
So the state here has no authority and has no right to be doing investigations.
This is what happens when you have political leadership who cares more about virtue signaling and pandering to their voter base than actual public safety. The police know what needs to be done, but they're being held back by politicians who are more concerned about appeasing activists than protecting citizens. Despite everything, the violence, the attacks on ICE agents, the community exhaustion, Mayor Jacob Frey is doubling down on his position that Minneapolis is being occupied by federal agents and it's all Trump's fault.
This act was clearly designed to intimidate the people of Minneapolis. And here's the thing. We're not going to be intimidated.
Frey says the federal presence is clearly designed to intimidate and that Minneapolis will not be intimidated. But here's the reality, hombre. ICE has 3,000 agents in Minneapolis because the city has become a hub for organized crime and immigration fraud. They're not there to intimidate. They're there because local leadership, you, Frey, you, Walz, have failed to address the actual problems. Also, real quick, guys, we're still going through the tips and emails that you guys had sent in. Thank you guys so much for doing that. We're going to continue our series on the dark money funding anti-ICE protest this week. Keep those tips coming. Really appreciate you guys.
We've got many mechanisms to achieve safety. And the best way to get safety is not to have an influx of even more agents, and in this case, military.
Really, bro? Because your city has been in chaos for weeks. ICE agents are facing 8,000% more death threats. Protesters are ramming federal vehicles, and you're telling us you got it all under control. Then he drops this gem.
The second these ICE agents leave the city, I'm telling you, you're going to have calm in Minneapolis, and you will continue to see the great comeback that we had been.
Translation, you just let us go back to ignoring federal immigration law and protecting criminals, and everything will be okay. My friends, that is not leadership. That is surrender. And the people of Minneapolis, the real residents, not the purple-haired activists with the nose rings, are exhausted, absolutely exhausted by this bull crap. So what's Trump's response to all this chaos? 1,500 active duty soldiers from the Army's 11th Airborne Division in Alaska on standby, ready to deploy if Trump invokes the Insurrection Act.
2 infantry battalions of the Army's 11th Airborne Division have been given prepare to deploy orders, so the active duty soldiers are standing by. They would be deployed only if President Donald Trump invokes the Insurrection Act.
These aren't National Guard troops. These are active duty soldiers who specialize in cold weather operations. They're trained exactly for this type of environment, and they're ready to go the moment Trump gives the order.
Minnesotans are exhausted right now, not only because of this, but I mean, as you reported before, the fraud. We've been under so much pressure. And as a Minnesotan and as somebody that is running for governor, what I've been hearing is people are exhausted.
Mike Newcomb, an independent candidate for governor, explained that people aren't going to buy groceries. Schools are closed. Businesses are closed. Residents say they don't feel safe leaving their home. 2 things can be true at the same time. Yes, we're cracking down on immigration. Secondly, it's not just ICE in these communities. It's these activists that are creating chaos. America, Minnesota is experiencing white liberal fatigue at a scale we have never, ever seen before. The actual residents, working class people, everybody are completely exhausted by the activists defending Somalia fraudsters who stole millions of dollars. They're done with Mayor Frey pretending ICE is the problem when actually local leadership created this mess. The community is speaking, and they're speaking loud. The churchgoer who schooled Don Lemon said it perfectly. Protesters violated their house of worship, while ICE is removing criminals who endanger Americans. 1,500 troops ready to be deployed, and all of this could have been avoided if Frey and Walz just worked with the federal government instead of treating immigration enforcement like tyranny. The Insurrection Act doesn't seem like it's just a threat. It's a promise, and Minnesota is about to learn what happens when you choose chaos over cooperation. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.